So just look at these things, as I just said. The cooking for Christmas, obviously, it's very simple in the sense that during Christmas and pre-Christmas, you're going to really promote this book. You know, once our late President Nelson Mandela, when he passed away, there were so many books on Nelson Mandela. And, you know, obviously every year with the 18th, I think it's the 18th of July, his birthday, where they then commemorate his, you know, commemorate him and his legacy. And then you will once again see all of these books either coming out as re-editions, or they are re-promoting backlist titles that focuses on him, because we still have the Mandela Day, you know, that 67 minutes, etc., etc. There has also been a season of a lot of political and economic exposés, you know, a lot of investigative journalism these last couple of years. One of these titles, for example, were the Steinhoff crash, you know, where there was the corporate crash with money and all of that problem. Political season as well, like with the President's Keepers, Ace Magishule's Whip of Capture, etc. So those things also can also be a season, but like for politics, right? So if you think about booksellers, right, I think I mentioned it in the pest analysis, but they do require a trade discount. So the reason for that being is they are providing the sales platform or the place where people come and buy the books. So publishers, if they are selling their books to booksellers, they sell it at a discount. Now, discount can also vary between kinds of companies, kind of bookstores, etc. But academic bookstores usually take 35 to, I don't know if it's now already 40% discount, whereas in trade it's a lot higher. We actually take 35 to 48 to even 50% sometimes, which is a huge discount. So there has always been a fight going around between publishers and booksellers, because booksellers need the books from publishers, otherwise they will have nothing in their stores, whereas publishers need the booksellers because they need a platform and they need a shop where they can display their books. But you know, the discount rate has increased a lot over the last few years, and one of the reasons being because of the tough economic climate and people not reading or buying books. And it's not that they're not reading, it's just so expensive to buy, and obviously because of the advent of technology and ebooks, etc., etc. So there are all these factors that need to be considered. But I mean, a bookstore still needs to pay overheads. They have to pay their staff. They have to hire the venue or wherever they're located. So, you know, they need to think about that. They cannot, for example, purchase the books at the recommended sales price from the publisher. Otherwise, they will not make any profit. Right. So the best would be for a bookseller to have a variety of titles, because they have limited space. So it depends on the bookstore. If you are very niche orientated and you only focus on, say, for example, art books and coffee table books, then obviously that would be kind of your focus, right? But in our general bookstores, we want as many books and variety as possible, but they have limited space. So they really have to think about what do they display, because whatever you don't see as a customer, you wouldn't be aware of their existence, right? So booksellers really play a very important role. Okay. Once again, you have to think about your market demands and trends. So the 50 Shades of Grey, then all of a sudden, obviously, you have to reorder and make sure that you stock the right titles. You know, now that unicorns are all the craze with children's books, you need to get all of those coloring in books and stories about unicorns, etc., etc., in your bookstore. Be aware of the trends. Know that people are going to come and ask you for certain things, and make sure that those books are available. If you think about booksellers, C&A, P&A, bargain books, exclusive books, there are a lot of other smaller, like independents, like Graffiti, Uppercase Books. If I think about Pretoria bookstores, I think in Joburg there's Love Books. In Cape Town, I know there are also a few of these books in Long Street, bookstores in Long Street. So, but they are few and far between. The independent stores, obviously, and it's hard for them sometimes, because people know bargain books, people know exclusive books, and C&A. So it's difficult to actually make your mark in that market area and to get people to your bookstore as well. Publishers are also looking at alternative outlets. So that can be, for example, selling a gourmet cookbook at a deli, or wildlife photography book at maybe a shop that sells cameras, so, or camping equipment or something like that. So publishers are also looking at alternative sales outlets of where they can still meet the consumer where they're at, and then advertise their books and sell their books obviously as well. And then usually the trade discounts and things will work a little bit differently, depending on the store and the agreement between the publisher and the bookseller. Alright, so how do booksellers then compete? We also have Protea Bookshop. I don't know if you guys can still remember them here in Burnett Street. CNA Exclusive Books and Bargain Books. I like to always put the logos in because it already says something about the bookstore. Obviously, there are Van Skyke bookstores as well. Although they have maybe a few trade titles, their main focus is actually academic books, alright. Whereas Protea have both academic and trade books. CNA, on the other hand, have stationery products and a lot of other things. So they were actually a publishing house back in the day, the Central News Agency. But they have diversified their product line in such a way that now it's actually more like a general kind of stationery, etc. store. Oh, and by the way, we have books, so it's not necessarily a bookstore per se. Same with P&A. But anyways, so price. How can booksellers actually compete? How do you guys know where to go when you're looking for a book? Do you go to all the bookstores? Do you have your preferred exclusive books or bargain books? Do you do a price check? Do you go online? And obviously pricing is important. To me, I usually see where I can get the book the cheapest. So I really don't mind if I'm at exclusive books or bargain books or wherever. I want that book. It's exactly the same content. I don't care where I buy it as long as I have the book. But because we are very price sensitive in South Africa, we need to think about pricing, right? And sometimes you will find differences, slight changes and differences in pricing. And remember, all of these bookstores get a certain discount from the publishing house, and then they kind of determine their own price. That is why publishers have a recommended retail selling price. So they would, for example, say, we ask 250 Rand for this book. But then, based on the calculations of your specific bookstore, taking off the discount, etc., they can decide, do I want to still sell it for 250? Can I sell it for 220? Etc., etc. Because they get those books from the publisher at a very cheap price. Okay, so pricing is important. That can be your distinguishing factor as to why people will go to your bookstore and not another one. Customer service, always very, very important. I like it when I ask for a book and they order it for me and I get a little notification on my phone. That's always awesome. Whereas if you go, as opposed to when you go to a bookstore and people are quite, rude, or they don't want to help you, or they just don't know how to help you, chances are you will not ask them again for their help in future. All right. Immediate purchase, that's also a big thing. It's nice if you go to a store and your product is there and then you purchase it immediately. The problem with that is because I was looking for a book for my niece, and it's a very specific book, and I tried on Amazon and they couldn't ship it during COVID, etc., etc. And then I thought I'll get help and ask the exclusive books people. And the problem with that is they said yes, they can order, but may only be available in a month or two's time. The problem with that is that I needed a gift for my niece. So what happened then is obviously I will just go to another bookstore, or I will just choose something else and then not buy that book, which is sad, but that is the problem. So a lot of the times you want an immediate purchase. And if the book is not available, then you kind of lose that opportunity when the next time when the reprint maybe comes in and the customers had to wait too long, then maybe they bought something else and now they're not interested anymore. So you have to capitalize on those kinds of impulse buys or immediate purchases. I think of, for example, when we have book launches as well. That's a great way for impulse buys, because sometimes, many times I've gone to book launches and I would think that, oh, well, I don't know, I'm going to this book launch to listen, but I'm not really a fan, or I don't really know this author. And then once I've actually attended the book launch and I listened to the author, then I actually want to go and buy that book. It's like going to a music concert and buying the CD, well, back in the day, buying the CD afterwards. All right. You have to have a range of products as well. Whereas if you are a niche bookstore owner, that's fine. Then you're niche, and there's also some unique qualities in that. But for example, if I go to a bookstore and they only have 3 genres, or they only have this or that, then You want a variety because you want a range of products that you can basically choose from. That's what's so awesome with online purchasing, because they always give you recommendations of other stuff as well. And then obviously what goes with customer service is knowledgeable staff. I like it because, once I went to Bargain Books, and the guy, when I bought one of the titles, the guy actually said, you know what, if you like this author, you would also like that author, and things like that. I like it when people do that. And it's not being pushy or a know-it-all. It's really nice because you know that they actually know what they are talking about. Now, other ways of distributing products, if we don't just look at the booksellers, is basically what about libraries and book clubs? So libraries, we do have a problem with government spending, that there are not a lot of public libraries available anymore. I talked about this in the pest analysis, but also those ones that are available are severely underfunded. So what happens is then they cannot have a range of products. Or the books that they have are really outdated, and they can't get the new copies in, etc., etc. So that's really sad. Or if it's a series and they only have 2 out of the series because that's the only stuff that they can afford. Sometimes what also happens is that you get donations, and then not that donations is a bad thing, but sometimes you just get people who are basically dumping their books onto you. So then the libraries sit with all kinds of books that are actually not relevant or doesn't even link to their target audience or demographic. And now I can't say no because they're very thankful for the donations. But don't always just think that you can just go and dump your book at a library. Actually ask them what they would like to receive before you just go and donate. All right, but we have public libraries. Those are the ones like in Brooklyn and in Linwood, Alcantrand, and I don't know where else. Waverly has one as well. But the public libraries, it's open to the public. Usually you pay a membership fee. Sometimes it's free, and you take out your books and you can return it. It's awesome because it's not as expensive as buying the books. I know us readers usually like to buy the books, but sometimes it's nice if you read a book and then decide, okay, do I actually want to buy it or not? Our school libraries are also severely underfunded and understocked, depending on the school and the funding that they do get to do these things and to purchase stock. What's cool about public libraries is that with a school library, your kids are part of the school and they have access to it, but with public libraries, sometimes it just gives that feel where kids can actually go to the library and pick out books for, leisure reading, and it's not necessarily prescribed, and school libraries most of the time don't always have all of the books as well. All right, you do get agents that are actually specializing in library marketing and sales. So they only target libraries and know the system, they know what the budgets are, they know what the protocol is, etc., etc. And they go around and then actually sell books to the libraries via on behalf of the publishing house. All right. So sometimes your publishing house would tell your agent, listen, we have the following titles available this year. Go and see wherever you can go and sell this. Usually these agents belong to a little like an association or a community of library suppliers. And they have conventions and all of these things, and they then usually discuss all kinds of challenges and opportunities for the library environment. All right. Your book clubs. Now, a lot of people think when they think about book clubs, they think about Reese Witherspoon's book club, or they think about girls sitting around drinking wine, talking about books, which is awesome. But the book club in this respect is leisure books. Now, I don't know if you guys can remember leisure books. Leserskring, they closed down a few years ago because of the post office issues, and they couldn't send their parcels anymore because their business is basically mainly set up in that way. So you would have a catalog, you will order the books that you'd like to read, and they will then courier or send it or mail it to you. And back in the day, when the post office strikes and everything like that happened, there was a huge problem with deliveries of parcels. They lost a lot of business, so they went out of business. But then interestingly, a courier company bought them. A courier distribution company bought them, I think in 2016 or 17, and so they not rebranded completely, but they basically revamped their system and their product offering, and now they're available again. So the books usually with them would have mass market appeal, so your general trade reader. It's not niche books necessarily, and usually they also, what's nice about it is they will include local books, which is interesting and nice to help us grow our South African product offering and to our, for people to read and to be proud of it. But they also have very high discounts. I don't know if it's still the same. I think it's 50%. Back in the day when I still used to work for LAPA publishers, it was up to 60 something percent, which is quite a lot. All right. So it's just important that you know there are various ways of distributing your books, whether it's now on an online system like Takealot or Amazon, or whether it is directly from the publisher's website, or then book clubs and libraries or alternative channels.